Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is ready for the regular season to start, and he has been tearing the cover off the ball in spring training. He's ready to go, and hopefully he can sustain this production over the course of a 162 game season. So we'll have that on this episode of Jay's Digest, as well as Kevin Gausman. Maybe he's a little bit closer to game action than we all may have anticipated, so we'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Thanks to each and every one of you that tuned into our live stream. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is really ready for the regular season to start, and he has just been tearing the cover off the ball in spring training. He's been hitting home runs left, right, and center. He's hitting the ball as hard as he ever has, and he's taking his walks. He's patient. He's not overswinging. He's not trying to do too much. We saw some of that last year in spring training with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but then it didn't necessarily carry over into the regular season. But now he looks to be in great shape. He looks to be ready to go. The bat speed is back to where it was in 2021. And Nick, I think he's poised for a huge bounce-back season. And this Blue Jay team is going to go as far as Vladdy takes them.
He is looking absolutely unbelievable. Before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 12,000, so thank you guys for your support on that. And you mentioned it. He's about to shock the MLB. Now, not shock in the sense of he hasn't done it before, but Peter, there's a lot of people who were doubting Vladimir Guerrero Jr. coming into the season, and I don't blame them at all. We both kind of had faith in him, but this is about as good of a spring training as you could have asked so far from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You're looking at it there, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 1,300 OPS, and 30 at bats, capped off by a huge bomb today, which I'll show you in a second. But Peter, we've said it all offseason. We even said it during the trade deadline last year. If the best Jays acquisition they could ever make, whether it was the offseason or now, was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. returning to what his 2021 form was, and he looks, along with the rest of the Blue Jays team, on a path to definitely do that.
Yeah, and he's not the only one that needs to have a bounce-back season. You could include George Springer in the mix, Alejandro Kirk as well. Yeah, you know what you're getting out of Bo Bichette year in, year out. But I've said this many times. His ceiling is not as high as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Bo Bichette is good for a 290 to a 310 average on a yearly basis with over 20 home runs and around 80 RBIs. That's really good. Really, really good. And he's going to hit a lot of doubles, and you know exactly what you're getting out of Bo. That's why he's been one of the hits leaders in the American League for the past 3 years. He's that guy. He's very consistent. He's Mr. Consistency. And he puts the bat on the ball pretty much as well as anybody in Major League Baseball. But Vladdy, those numbers that you showed right there, in 2021, 48 home runs, 111 RBIs, an OPS over 1,000. I love Bo, but he can't reach those numbers. He doesn't have the same power that Vladdy does, and he doesn't have the same fear factor that Vladdy does in a lineup. That year, teams did not know how to pitch to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They didn't know what to do with him because he was just so dominant, and he was taking what the opposition was giving to him, as evident with that 401 on-base percentage in his MVP runner-up season. I think he can replicate those numbers. It's not like he's in his mid-30s and he's starting to slow down. He's 25, and he has all the talent in the world to do it. All he had to do was get into shape, and he seems to have done that. He's come into camp in great shape, and now he's just working on things, and he's looking to be more patient than he ever has been, and he's taking his walks. I know it's spring training. We got to take the stats with a grain of salt, but he looks like a very comfortable hitter up there, and he looks like a totally different player than he was just a few months ago when the Blue Jays were ousted by the Minnesota Twins in the Wild Card Series.
Yeah, don't remind me about that, but let's just show the home run, Peter. This was today. This was about an hour ago, and we've seen every one of his home runs this spring have been absolute no-doubters. His swing just looks so familiar to what it was in 2021, even in 2022 a little bit. And I'm going to show it one more time for everybody. Just crushed, no doubt about it. Absolute bomb against Raisel Iglesias, who's been a solid reliever in the past, a leadoff reliever in 1 year. So he's doing it, and teams are starting to play the regular lineups now. But Peter, some concerns are, you look at the stats there, his OPS has been in the 700s 3 out of the 5 years that he has been in the MLB. Obviously in 2021 it was okay. In 2021 it was phenomenal. Sorry, in 2022 it was okay. An 818 OPS, 133 OPS plus, which is very good. But can he get back to what he was? I think the answer is going to be yes. I really do. And I think that this is the year that not only does Vladdy bounce back and turn into what we thought he could be, I think the rest of the Blue Jays are finally going to come together this year based on what I'm seeing. And if the pitching can hold up, which we'll get into now in a second, I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, he's bet on himself here, and he's yet to sign a long-term contract extension with the Blue Jays. Now, whose choice that is, we don't know. What if it's the Blue Jays that are remaining cautious and don't want to commit all that money to a player who has shown some inconsistency in the past? That's entirely possible, but Vladdy is looking for a big payday, and that's why he's taking this year very seriously. He should take every year seriously, don't get me wrong, but he realizes that he's costing himself money with each down season, and I think he's going to perform up to that standard that he set in 2021. And one thing I'm noticing with him in spring training, it's a subtle adjustment, but his hands are moving a lot less, and he's a lot quieter at the plate. And you see there, he's just a lot more balanced, and not as many moving parts in his swing. Like he had his hands up very high last year, and then he would drop them, and then he would try to raise them back up, and that was causing him to be late on some pitches. He wasn't getting to the inside fastballs. He wasn't able to do damage on the pitches in the middle of the plate because his timing was off, and for whatever reason, his hands were just moving a little bit too much. He looked jittery up there. He was trying to do a little bit too much last year, and that's why he couldn't get stuff done. He was trying to make everything happen with one swing of the bat, and sometimes you just gotta take whatever is being thrown at you, and right now he's doing that. Let's see if it could carry over into the regular season, but his hands look a lot more calm up there in the box. He looks a lot more calm, and he's doing damage on pitches that he was missing with regularity last season.
And that's something Joe Siddle mentioned earlier in the offseason, and you hit the nail on the head there. He is going to be an exciting player to watch. I think the Jays team in general, but one thing that's not exciting, or I guess is kind of exciting, I mean, the fact he injured obviously isn't exciting, but Peter, he should be back soon, and that is Kevin Gausman. We got an update today, and there's some good news on his front. So you can see here, Kevin Gausman just finished a 2-inning simulated game at the Blue Jays complex in Dunedin through 36 pitches. Only threw 8 balls to 7 batters, 2 hits, 2 Ks, 2 flyouts, and a groundout. The results don't really matter that much. What's important is that Gausman said everything felt sound physically. His next step is to target 65 pitches over 3 innings in a game, likely on Monday. Club and Gausman will make a call on his availability for the start of the season following that outing. So, Peter, we will have a much better idea following that outing of what the actual situation is. But in the meantime, there's a good chance he starts. He'll be available for the start of the regular season. That won't be, obviously, an opening day, maybe towards the end of it, maybe the 4th or 5th game, but it's looking very good, and he's back and dodge a major bullet there.
Yeah, I don't want them to rush him either, though, because obviously we know the importance of Kevin Gausman. He's the ace of this Blue Jays staff. He's been their most consistent pitcher over the past 2 years, and he's been everything that they could have hoped for and more when they went out and signed him after his great season in San Francisco. But you don't want to rush him out of necessity. And right now, the Blue Jays have 4 starters that they could rely on if you want to include Bowden and Francis in that mix that are healthy. They have 4 healthy starters that they know will give them some pretty good production every 5th day. But they're missing that 5th starter, and Kevin Gausman, when he is ready to go, I expect him to slot in to that final rotation spot so he doesn't miss starts, or maybe he skips ahead and he becomes the ace after the first turn in the rotation. That's also entirely possible. But 60 to 65 pitches, that shows to me that maybe he's not ready for a full game. Maybe he's not ready to rejoin the rotation in full force. And I want him to be at 100% health when he does rejoin the team, because I don't want this to just be nagging him all season long. Some shoulder tightness. We know what it did to Alek Manoah last year. We know what it's doing to him right now, and it's costing him some game time. So with Kevin Gausman, I think he can hit the ground running. He doesn't need to get all that workload in spring training. He's a veteran. He's been there, done that. Give him the time to recover. Let him come back in full force and be the ace of your staff when he's ready.
Completely agree. Do not rush him back. I do not want to see this lingering into April, maybe not April, but May or anything later, at least from this specific injury, because they wanted to have a chance. Obviously, every game matters a lot, but his health is the most important. It's not just this year, right now, that matters. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know what your thoughts are on all of this. Peter, baseball, 8 days away. We saw the opening day, I guess, earlier this morning, if you're on the East Coast, that is, and it was a pretty fun game. Some wild stuff happened, so it'll be fun. Baseball is back, and we'll have you covered every single day for Blue Jays news. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now, and we'll see you tomorrow.